So one question we get asked all the time at Victory 4x4, what winch fits in your bumper? Well, I'm going to go over some options today and kind of explain to you what winches will fit into our bumpers. Now there are two types of winches, and I have two laid out here. You have an integrated solenoid pack, which has the solenoid for all the controls, which is attached to the top of the winch. And then you have one that has a non-integrated, which has a solenoid box that you can actually remove and relocate somewhere else. The reason that you would go with one or the other, for the non-integrated, that's preferable in all of our Toyota bumpers, because at that point you can relocate this up behind your grill, because there's a lot of clearance issues that we may have when it comes to radiators or header bars or whatever it may be inside the bumper itself. Now going over, this is a Warn Xeon. It is pretty much the biggest winch on the market, as you can see by its physical size. So our goal always is to build our bumpers to fit the Xeon. If we can build our bumpers to fit the Xeon, it'll fit pretty much every winch below from there down. Not always is that the case, though, that the Xeon will fit. Now, Warn makes a relocation pack, so it actually unbolt this top and it will relocate just like this control box to allow you to still run a Warn Xeon in our bumpers. Some of the other things that you're going to see is that the industry uses a pretty standard bolt pattern. It's 10 inches by 4.5 on a bottom foot mount. Pretty much every winch you're going to be looking at is going to be having that. Now, I have Warn winches here. That's my preference. For 20 years I've wheeled and I've always relied on Warn, and they've never let me down. There's other winches on the market, of course. You can buy Ramsey, you can buy Mile Marker, or you can buy any combination of some Chinese imported winch. Fit finish features is what you're going to be missing out on when you go to a lesser value winch. This winch is going to retail somewhere around $1,200. This guy's going to come in somewhere around $700. So there are options. When you go to choose your winch, you're going to have a couple of options to pick from. One, the size of the winch, the capacity, and then whether you're going to run steel cable or synthetic rope. Now when you go to pick how much weight you're going to have on your truck, you're going to want to go 1.5 times the weight of your vehicle. So for a Tundra, you're around 7,000 pounds. You're going to want to be a minimum of 10,000 to 12,000 range. Now, if you're in like a Tacoma or a 4Runner, you could probably get by with an 8,000 to a 10,000 on the max end of that. So there's a lot of options in between. There's going to be a lot of 9,500 pound winches you see out there. They're essentially just as good as a 10,000 pound winch within 500 pounds. So it's not a big deal if you go with a 9,500 pound winch in that regard. Most of the time you're going to see them in 8,000, 9,500, 10,000, 12,000. That's going to be kind of the increments you see. Next, it's going to be whether you go with steel cable or rope. And some of you may not know the difference is. This is literally metal cable. And this is what everybody's used for centuries until they came up with synthetic rope. Synthetic rope actually came from tugboats. They were using a product called Amsteel Blue, which was a nylon braided rope that they used to tug ships. And it kind of adapted over into our game probably about 15, 16 years ago. It started to come on, and now it's pretty common in the scene to see synthetic rope. Things that make synthetic rope better than steel cable. When you run your cable in on your winch, you can get what they call a bird's nest, and that's where the cable actually pinches over this other piece of cable and then creates like a knot. And that knot can then start to splinter off. You always have to wear gloves when you handle steel cable. When you're using rope, you can use bare hands, which is nice. The other thing is that you're not going to get that knotting. You're not going to get a bird's nest in here. The one thing about synthetic rope, if you don't run it on the drum correctly after every use and put tension on it, what's going to happen is it's going to knot up on itself, and then it's going to make it hard to get it out. So you're going to be actually like yanking the rope trying to pull it off the drum because it's going to want to tangle itself up. The other thing with synthetic rope, there is concerns with UV light. So this is black. So if it's sat directly in the sun for a couple of years, it's going to turn into a lighter gray color. You can also see that there's this red sheathing on here. This is for heat protection. So a lot of the lesser value synthetic ropes that you can buy on the market won't have this. And what can happen is actually the rope can actually melt onto the drum, because a lot of really good winches use the drum. They have a braking mechanism inside this drum to help brake so that when you're pulling, it's not just going to retaliate and go unwind. So now also, when you go to put one of these in our bumpers, you're going to notice that we have holes to reach in the front of the bumper. And what we have, they look like style, but really they're there so that you can get to your selector knob here so you can engage and free spool your winch. It's also on the other side, we have a spot so you can reach in if you needed to access your solenoid in order to plug your controller in. So you're just gonna reach up in there, you're gonna plug your controller in, then you're gonna route this back to the cab of your truck. So anyways, guys, I hope that helps you guys figure out what you're after. Once again, I highly recommend Warn. They never let me down. Their slogan's go prepared. Spend the money on a winch. I know it sucks because it's a lot of money to tie up on something that you put inside the front of your vehicle and you feel like maybe you're not gonna use it. The problem is when you go out a year and a half from now and you go to use that winch, you want a nice quality winch that's actually gonna work. And a lot of winches that are made overseas, they skip a lot of the seals and some of the additional features so that when you go to use it, it's all gummed up. They use crappy grease, so the grease is gummed up and the winch may not work. So always look for a nicer option when you're going for this. Spend a little bit more extra money and go for some bling factor, get some nice winches. Just one more note on the Warn side of things, they make a VR series and an M series. So this is an M8000, but they also make what they call the VR 8000, which has a smaller integrated pack that comes like half of this. On a couple of our Blitz bumpers for the Tacoma and the 4Runner, we've managed to get that VR into the bumper without having to relocate the solenoid. But they also sell a way to relocate that pack as well if that's where you go. But the VR series is a great option if you're looking to spend a little less money but still want to get into a nice Warn winch. So anyways, guys, I hope that helps. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below or give us a call. info@victory4x4.com is our email address and our phone number is 269-353-1184. We'd love to help you guys figure out what you need for your Victory bumper.